Given the title of today's talk, okay, there's a learning how to build a community from the Kathina robe making practice. You will notice that I didn't put Kathina robe offering. Instead, I put the Kathina robe making. The reason is, as usual, because I want to remind you about the historical significance of this Kathina. Kathina is not just ordinary robe offering. Okay, these days robes are ready-made. Not many people know how to make clothes for themselves. We don't do that anymore. Time has moved on. And actually monks are supposed to know how to make robes by themselves. But hardly any monk knows how to do that. Because this change situation, it looks as if offering robe during the Kathina and offering robe on any other occasion is just the same. There's no difference. But actually there is a lot of difference. A lot of difference. But we need to be reminded, we ourselves have to be reminded of the context. The context of the Kathina, contextualization is important. The intention of the Buddha in granting the Kathina and the social condition during the time the Buddha allowed the Kathina to be practiced. My main point today is that the Buddha wanted monks and also their lay supporters, their devotees, to learn how to build a community. That is why he allowed Kathina robe to be offered within 1 month after the end of the 3 months rains retreat. When I say to build a community, that means no community is ready-made either. Okay, no community is ready-made. People have to build a community all the time on a small scale, on a larger scale, and then when 2 people get married, establish a shared life together, they are actually building a community of 2. And they have to learn how to live together. They have to learn how to do that. Simply because they love each other, simply because they have exchanged vows. it's not a guarantee that they already know how to live together in harmony, peacefully, happily. So day in and day out, without taking anything for granted, they need to make effort to make the relationship works. And when they have children, the community grows. The relationship between the mother and the children, between the father and the children, okay, there is a constant adaptation in the family for the family to succeed, to be happy, to build a strong bond. Some family do better than others. In some family, there is a case, where children develop some trauma, childhood trauma. This is something psychologists are very interested, and a lot of research on this. The good thing giving a Dhamma talk from my own office is that I can grab any book. So this book is called The Whole Brain Child. Brain, that is between whole and brain there's a dash. Okay, the whole brain child. This is how to bring up a child within the family. So this is about learning how to build a community. When the children grow up and they establish their own family. Now you can see the family is growing bigger. We come to have what we call extended family. And the relationship between the extended family is tricky. We need to make effort constantly. In one of the English language program broadcast, I think by the BBC, I think some years ago, maybe 30, 40 years ago, maybe a little bit more. It's called Mind Your Language. In that, one of the conversation is about in-law. Then an Italian student learning how to speak English. He didn't get the word in-law. Instead, he maybe purposefully, intentionally, or maybe unintentionally, he used the word outlaw. Instead of in-law, he said outlaw. My sister outlaw, my brother outlaw. And the teacher corrected him. No, it's not outlaw, it's in-law. He wouldn't take it. No, it's the same. No, it's not the same. In-law and outlaw. This is to say that as people start establishing smaller community by establishing their own families, the original community takes on different aspects. Now there needs to be more coordination. And this coordination, or shall we say, community skill is what I intend to talk about. That is a community skill. In order to establish a community, we need to constantly develop community skill. This community skill becomes perfect only when we become enlightened, to tell you the truth. So from family, then we have a neighborhood where many families living on the same street, in the same neighborhood. And people have to learn how to live together, to build a community together. And then we have township, we have in China we have provinces, in England we have counties, we have boroughs. Okay. In America as well, you have county. In Thailand, you have districts, more than 70 districts, like that. So these are all communities. They have to learn how to live together. What the Buddha is telling us is not to take community for granted. Instead, individual should be making some effort, constant effort, so that the community prospers, harmonious, peaceful, and is in the interest of individuals that the community prospers and peaceful. If the community is prosperous and peaceful, individuals who constitute the community, they will feel more secure. When the community is more established, these days we say a country is more established. So in a more established country, it's a lot easier to make progress in education, in business, in employment, in healthcare. These are the benefits of being in a community, in a good, prosperous and harmonious community. Unsuccessful community, a fight often breaks out. Some people go with gun, through violence. It is very unfortunate for Myanmar to hold the title of having the longest civil war. That means, we need to learn more, we need to apply more of the teaching of the Buddha in building a community. Then we also have international community. ASEAN is one of them. WHO these days, with the COVID-19, WHO is another. World Trade Organization is another. UN, and so on. Now people need to learn how to live together. It's a constant effort. all the diplomatic efforts are dedicated to this, so that there is mutual prosperity, peace that both sides enjoy. Like that. Then here we come to the key point. How did the Buddha use the Kathina practice, Kathina robe making practice, to establish a community or to build a strong, prosperous, harmonious and peaceful community? So for this, we need to go back to the history a little bit. The Buddha allowed Kathina practice because the monks didn't have enough robes. During the Buddha's time, it was normal for Buddhist monks, even the Buddha, to travel all the time, most of the year. Even in his mature years, after the age of 55, when the Buddha decided to settle in the city of Savatthi, the Buddha still travel, from this end of the city to the other end of the city on daily basis. If he stay in the Anathapindika's monastery for the night, during daytime he would go to Visakha's monastery. If he stay in the Visakha's monastery for the night, then during daytime he would spend his time at the Anathapindika's monastery. And there are times that the Buddha travel, we can read the last discourse of the Buddha, Mahaparinibbana Sutta, long sutta, that covers about 10 months of the last years of the Buddha, the last journey of the Buddha. At a very mature age of 80, the Buddha was still traveling. That was a record of how he traveled from Rajaka to Kushinara. It took 10 months. He stopped in many places. Everywhere he gave the teaching. He reconfirmed the threefold training, Sila, Samadhi, Panya, for a peaceful life and community. That is, when we say threefold training, one is wisdom training. The second one is meditation training. The third one is ethical training. So all those training, they have to come together. The Buddha, he had been talking, teaching, explaining this for the last 45 years. And on his last journey, on every occasion, he would take the opportunity to confirm the practice to his disciple one last time. This is what you have to do in order to make yourself a happy person, and not just happy for yourself, but also beneficial to the society. So when Buddhist monks travel all the time like that, okay, and they were not supposed to have many pieces of rope, but just 3 pieces. So the ropes, they got worn out, and a lot of wear and tear. Because of that, because of that, at the end of the rainy season, the Buddha allowed the monks, okay, if you are really in need of ropes, you can look for rope. And it's by individual efforts and also by luck, whether we will get a ready-made rope, or whether we will have to do it ourselves. If we get just raw material and we have to do it ourselves, in most cases, monks would have to make the rope themselves, to whip it, to tie it, okay, and to dry it, and they have to do that within 24 hours. There is a very good reason why the Buddha said that, okay, if you have to collect materials from different places, it's okay that you take 1 month. But to actually make rope, you should take only 24 hours. If you take more time making rope, you're going to make beautiful rope. The Buddha didn't want monks to make beautiful ropes. If you get a very beautiful piece of cloth to make rope, and once it has become rope, you need to make it unattractive. I don't want to use the word ugly. In Pali, it's called duppana karana, meaning to make it ugly. You will see at the end of our rope like this, okay, we have one small extra piece of cloth from elsewhere, all one, and we have to stick to it. We have to stitch to this new rope. Why? To make it unattractive. Okay, it's based on need that the Buddha allowed the Kathina. But today then, Buddhist monks as well as their donors, everybody has a lot of clothes. Buddhist monks, okay, they have also, compared with the time of the Buddha, they have more robes. The donors themselves, during the Buddha's time, they didn't have many clothing. But today, look at your wardrobe. Okay, just so many. Then, is there any point of offering Kathina robe because the monks already have enough robes? This is a question that I raise just to make people more interested in the Kathina robe, to make the offering in a more critical, in a more understanding, in a more reflective mode. I think also Buddha Vihara Singapore has published that for me. Yes, despite having enough robe, maybe more than enough robes, in some temple, If they have 3 monks, more than 3 pieces of rope being offered on the Kathina day. But despite the change, the drastic change in the material availability, in the availability of clothing, in this case, robe, the Buddha, if we look at the rules and regulation of a successful Kathina robe, we will see that Kathina is more than an offering of robe. Why? I already mentioned that people, including Buddhist monks, they travel so much in the early days during the Buddha's time. So for them to live in one place and with other monks was not a priority those days. These days, of course, we settle in a monastery. We live with in a training monastery. Okay, we live with dozens, sometimes hundreds of monks. Life has changed. But those days, when monks didn't choose to live with many other monks, instead they would go off and practice on their own, practice meditation on their own in a secluded place. They might be developing concentration. They might be feeling calm and composed when they are away from others. But when they are back with the community, with other monks, you always have people with different opinions, different liking, different inclination, different habits, different interests. Some people like to read something else. Maybe somebody is more interested in Abhidhamma and one is not. One is maybe just the sutta, for example. And this is true to families at home. Just by getting married, you don't actually marry your opinion. Okay. From time to time, different opinions still remain. So what we have to do then is to develop some social skills, some psychological skill, in order to adapt to the situation and in order to solve problems that might arise from time to time. So the Buddha said, if you want to have a Kathina robe, at least you need to stay with other monks for 3 months. For 3 months. Living together with other monks means we need to be governed. The communal life has to be governed by rules and regulations. So, to be with other monks for 3 months is called rains retreat. In Burmese we call it wasana. That's about learning how to build a community, learning how to live together in harmony. There must be give and take all the time. In order to do that, the qualities the Buddha emphasized are two things. There are two qualities. One is to develop patience, khandi, to develop patience. The other is to develop joyful habit, mudita. Without these two, no community is successful. We can talk about two people living together as a couple. They need to be patient. They need to, with each other. They need to tolerate each other. Mudita, they need to rejoice in each other's strength. Otherwise, there will be just expectation from each other. More expectation means expectation will not be met. When expectations are not met, there will be frustrations. When people live together, certainly there is expectation, and this is natural. Between parents and children, between neighbors, and if we work in a community, in a company, in a ministry, there will still be expectation of a person's behavior and also his or her contribution to the company, to the ministry. We expect our head of state, our prime minister, our minister, to do certain tasks. We expect our security officers, the police, the army, to provide us with security. And the government also expects the citizen to live by the law, to pay taxes, to be good citizen, like that. So expectation all around. We can't really live without expectation. Then with expectation, without tolerance, the ability of tolerance or patience, we will be quarreling all the time. One Sayadaw, Mahabodhimyan Sayadaw, talks about khandi or patience or tolerance. This is one of the 10 paramis. Okay? One of the 10 paramis. Number 6, parami, khandi parami. We have just chanted earlier. To develop the ability of tolerance, patience. Mahabodhimyan Sayadaw said, if you have money, you can do dana, you can do an offering, you can be generous. If you have more, you can afford more. Sila, that is ethical behavior, and you can choose to do it. You don't really need to wait for other people. It's within your hand. But when it comes to khandi, when it comes to tolerance, khandi parami, you need to wait for other people to give you. When other people have different opinions from yours, when they irritate you, when they fall short of your expectation, they are giving you khandi parami. And without Kandi Parami, we can't reach our full potential. Leaders of a country has more tolerance than other people. It has to be. Otherwise, there will be, he will be creating more problem. The head of an organization, the head of a family, the head of a company, okay, if he has no tolerance, if his tolerance level is very low, then more than his contribution, he will be creating a lot of negative environment. That is why Kandi, tolerance, is very important. People disagree, people quarrel, people disappoint each other. Then what they have to do is they have to make up. Okay. They have to find a way to overcome that. They have to find a way to heal the wound. The Buddha actually plays Kandi Parami, or the practice of patience, the practice of tolerance, as one single most important for 20 years. In the first 20 years of his missionary life, he didn't lay down any rule. There was no Vinaya. There's no Vinaya discipline. Every 15 days, every fortnight, monks would come to the assembly, and the Buddha would just repeat. He would just tell them, okay, the same teaching. That is, Kandi Paramamta Bodhidekha. Tolerance or patience is the highest practice. Because if we can tolerate, if we can be patient with each other, we wouldn't hurt each other. We wouldn't offend each other. We wouldn't break law. There are two professors of criminal law who have written a book after they have studied why people committed a crime. You know, it's not poverty that is the top reason, the top condition for people to commit crime. It's impatience. It's anger. That's the main cause why people commit crime. So Kandi is actually metta. Is compassion. It's compassion that that helps us, okay, to cope with anger, to lessen the habit of anger, to weaken the habit of anger, ultimately to replace it. So without anger, we will have tolerance, we have patience. towards each other. So when the Buddha said Kandi Paramanta Bodhitika, in today's term, he was emphasizing anger management. But he was doing that in a more positive way. He didn't say, don't get angry. He didn't say, manage your anger. Instead, he said, develop patience, develop tolerance. But tolerance is not when you grind your teeth and you suppress your anger. No. This is about psychological development. We need to work on our anger. We need to work on our frustration. We need to work on the habit of agitation, the habit of losing our control, losing our temper. Without this, it's not possible to build a successful community. You can talk about a community that consists of siblings, like brothers and sisters. Yeah. If they often get angry with each other, there will be no family bond anymore between them. Then Kandi Parami is about EQ, it's about emotional quotient, it's about emotional intelligence, it's about knowing our emotion and learning how to regulate that, to regulate our emotion. This is Kandi. So Kandi is to cope with the shortcoming, to cope with negative things, to cope with the situation when things don't go our way. But life also has a lot of sunshine side, a positive side. Okay. And we need to develop, to notice them. If we don't train ourselves to notice good things, it's not possible to build a successful community. We will be all so negative towards each other. In the past 12 years, from scratch, the Oxford Buddha Vihara in Singapore has gone through a lot of difficulties, mainly with the how should I put it? Because we don't have a permanent place, we need to move around, and we need to pay rent, and there's a lot of pressure on this. In addition to that, what kind of society we want to be, how we want to contribute to Singapore as a whole. Okay, Singapore is a multilingual and multi-faith community with a mainly English speaking audience. So our target is to contribute not just the Myanmar and Thai immigrant community, but also the native, if you don't mind me using this, with the native Singaporeans, to use the Dhamma to contribute to their welfare and well-being. So this aim we may have been able to to do something about this, but we have not been able to, shall I say, to achieve the highest results. We haven't been able to satisfy our goal. But despite all these difficulties, okay, in the past 12 years, we have achieved a lot together. A lot together. So if we look at that, if we don't forget that, if we revisit that, if we revisit the hard work we put in together, sometime within our own, also Buddha Vihara community, sometime with other Buddhist communities, if we revisit those hard works and those achievements, we can be proud of our members. We can be proud of our own existence as OBV Singapore. Only if we are proud of our own work, not ignoring the shortcoming, even only if we can be proud of, truly proud of, if we have the capacity to be truly proud of our own hard work, then we will be able to be proud of other communities, other Buddhist society, other temples, other organizations. Because we know how hard is it to maintain a society like this. For the monks, the Buddha, he made provision to deal with differences and fallout within members of the Sangha, between the monks. One of them is that, okay, he developed them psychologically. I have already mentioned to develop Khandi Parami, that is the practice of tolerance, perfection. This tolerance can only come about, okay, if we understand that we cannot exist individually. We need to rely on each other. We are interdependent. Only then we will be prepared to compromise. Otherwise, we can be so self-centered. And whenever there is, whenever we find shortcoming in somebody, actually, the practice such as mindfulness, such as compassion, also helps us to see some perspective, to have another perspective that no shortcoming is unique. We can find the same shortcoming in elsewhere, in other places. We can find those shortcomings somewhere. So when we have that perspective, not only we can forgive ourselves and our members, but we have compassion, we have patience, we have tolerance to improve them. Because compassion is about solving problems, it's about being interested in people's problem, it's about being interested in how we can do to improve them. But this is only possible if we don't get angry. It's only possible if we can manage our anger, our tolerance, our irritation, like that. So the Buddha, on the psychological side, he developed people with these qualities, Khandi, especially Khandi and Mudita, that is the practice of tolerance that includes compassion, and then Mudita. Developing these qualities psychologically is not enough. The Buddha also laid down rules. So one side is psychology, development. The other side is rules and regulation, discipline, law, if you like, to have law. Just as a country has a constitution, every community, starting from the smallest, such as family unit, they all have to have their own rules and regulation. Otherwise, there will be no understanding between individuals. So one of the laws is that, okay, Buddhist monks, when you learn how to live together with other monks, you have to do so at least 3 months. If you don't complete 3 months, there will be no Kathina. The Buddha. So this is a Vinaya rule, it's a discipline, it's a law. It's a law. The second one is, once you live together with other monks, forming a community, there will be time when you're not happy with each other. There will be time when you have a lot of complaint about each other. There will be a time when you don't understand each other, and emotionally you are stuck. So at the end of the 3 months retreat, on the full moon day of the end of the Vassa, the Buddha asked the monks to come together and ask each other for constructive criticism and for forgiveness. Constructive criticism, this is important when I say constructive, because there is anukambang upadaya, pasanto padikarisam. Anukambang upadaya means out of compassion. If somebody wants me to improve, wants to help me to get better, and comes and tells me, he would win me over, he would persuade me, I would be very receptive to his criticism. Why? Because he is so positive. He comes from compassion. His outlook is based on compassion. Sometimes our criticism doesn't come from compassion, it comes from frustration. It comes from anger. It comes from temper, short temper. Sometimes it comes from superiority complex. Sometimes it comes from rejection. Okay. We don't mind if this person improves or not. What we want more from him is so that he doesn't irritate us. You can see, our criticism sometimes is not very constructive. I notice this in myself sometimes when I give criticism, when I give comment, simply because I think it's a shortcoming, and the person is silly, so I must tell him off. That sort of thing. In that state of mind, obsessed with perfection, not feeling that person's pain, there is less likelihood that that person will be receptive to my comment. So there's a whole lot of development on this in psychology, taking from the Buddha. So at the end of the 3 months retreat, we call Pavarana. Monks will have to come together and ask each other for constructive criticism. Everybody has to offer that open invitation to other monks so that they give him constructive comment, constructive criticism. Failing to do this, you don't qualify a Kathina Robe. Simply like today, Phaliana wants to offer Kathina Robe, and the Phaliana you buy is a few sets of robe and you bring to the Vihara. That doesn't make the Kathina automatically successful. The monks would have to have done two things as precondition for Kathina. One is to learn how to live together. Of course, the monks at the OBB, they have been doing this, not just for 3 months, it's year round. Okay, so they have to compromise all the time among themselves. And at the end of the rains retreat, they have to renew their invitation for constructive criticism. This is not something easy. Not something easy. But the Buddha said, if we develop Khanti and Mudita, these two qualities, Khanti, Parami, and Mudita, we feel confidence enough to listen to comments and constructive criticism from other people. Otherwise, we're not confident enough. We feel threatened. We feel insecure whenever we receive people's criticism. So you can see two things come together. One is spiritual quality like Khanti, Parami, and Mudita. On the one hand. On the other, the discipline, the rules, the law that the monks have to follow. Only then we will have a successful Kathina. Kathina, those days, it was about making a robe. Today we don't make robes anymore. People bring ready-made robe. These two things, one is spiritual element, the other is the agreement within the community members, like the law and the rule regulation that they agree to live by. With these two elements, we can build a successful social relationship. Only when social relation is successful, when it has mechanism to heal, to interact actively, that this community will become dynamic, active, prosperous, and contributing. Harvard University has published a study, now about 80 years old research, ongoing research, the longest academic research on happiness. The question is, what makes people happy? That's the question. About 5 years ago, on its 75 years anniversary, that's the 75th anniversary of the research, its director, Professor Robert Warding, who is a Zen Buddhist practitioner. Actually, he's a Zen priest, Zen Buddhist priest, an American Zen Buddhist priest. He summarized the finding of 75 years. They studied 724 people for 75 years. If somebody died, then they would study his children. Earlier, they only studied men. Now they also study female family members. Now it's more than 700. They started with 724 people. That included 268 Harvard graduates, 278 Harvard graduates from the batch of 1939 to 1944. That included President Kennedy, John F. Kennedy. But it also included people from very poor background. Those stay in the Boston area where Harvard University existed. Some people didn't have running water. So from different social background, the people were invited, and every 2 years, this research team would interview them, would get their health record, would sponsor their health checkup, psychological, physical, and would interview them, and they would have a lot to fill up. The question is, so what makes people happy? Not only happy, but also longevity. They live long. What makes them happy is a successful social relationship. That's the conclusion. When they have problem, they learn how to deal with that. They make up. No one family is perfect. No one family is without argument, without fight. The so-called successful families, they are not one without differences. They have different opinions. But they learn how to tolerate each other. They learn how to see each other's strength. So Kandi and Mudita. And they establish a certain rule, family rule. And they are guided by the same principle, conscience, like that. It's very important that we develop Kandi and Mudita. And at the same time, we have a lot of rules and regulations. It's very important. Why? Naturally, our human society is very competitive. We need to compete for limited resources, water, land, food, and more. We need to compete. So when we compete, we become at least opponent, competitor. Some people end up becoming enemy. So in order to negate the effects of competition and build a successful community, it's important that we develop these qualities, that we have in place these procedures based on just law and regulation, as the Buddha has laid down in the process of Kathina Robe. So this is what makes Kathina Robe unique, because the robe is only part of it. Offering robe is just a part of it. It's a long process. Okay, at least 3 months in the making. Monks have to be in training. They have to learn how to build a community, how to be a good member, how to tolerate, how to see life of other people from positive point of view. And one more thing that I didn't discuss because of lack of time is wealth distribution. How the Kathina robe is offered. Those days, only one robe was considered Kathina. And we only had one piece of robe. This day we have many sets of robe, but still just one piece of robe is considered to be Kathina robe. Not every robe, not every set of robe is Kathina robe. The rest are all what we call parivara, the requisite. Only one piece of Kathina robe. Then who will get that Kathina robe? The distribution principle is based on needs. Somebody who needs it most will get it. It's not his seniority, it's not his position, it's not his popularity, it's not his learnedness, it's not his education that will determine. Is the need, his need. So this is the principle of wealth distribution, to take care of the needy. Without this, the society will not be in peace. There will be a lot of trouble, social unrest. So we need to take care of each other. Again, this is the message from the Kathina. That is why Kathina robe is unique. It gives us a lot of psychological teaching, social teaching. And I sum this up as a process of building a happy and successful community. I think failure now, I have spent most of the time speaking in English. If you don't mind, I would like to speak a little bit in Burmese. I think just 5 minutes left. Is it okay if I go over it? If I overshoot the time a little bit? Mary, is it okay? I'd like to speak in Burmese a little bit, not as long as in English. In Taunji is nearly 10. That means in Singapore is lunchtime. ဒီနေ့ကထိန်ကြောင်းပြောတာဒီအကျင့်အနေနဲ့ပြောရဆိုရင်တော့အကျင့်ချုပ်အနေနဲ့ကထိန်ရဲ့ရည်ရွယ်ချက်က အောင်မြင်တဲ့လူအတိုင်းဝိုင်းကိုတည်ထောင်ဖို့အတွက်တည်ထောင်ဖို့အတွက်အဲ့ဒီရည်ရွယ်ချက်နဲ့ဗုဒ္ဓမြတ်စွာဘုရားကကထိန်ကိုခွင့်ပြုထားတယ်သင်္ကန်းလှူတာကတခြားအချိန်မှာလှူလို့မရဘူးလားတခြားအချိန်မှာလှူရင်ကုသိုလ်မရဘူးလားရတာပေါ့ရတာပေါ့ကုသိုလ်ရတာပေါ့လှူလို့မရဘူးလားမြတ်စွာဘုရားတားမြစ်ထားလားမတားမြစ်ပါဘူးသင်္ကန်းလှူတာမတားမြစ်ပါသင်မတားမြစ်ပေမဲ့ဒီတိုင်းဆိုရင်တခြားချိန်မှာလည်းသင်္ကန်းလှူလို့ရပါနဲ့ဘာဖြစ်လို့ဒီချိန်သင်္ကန်းလှူတဲ့ဟာကိုအထူး special လောက်ရတာတော့ကထိန်ကဘာဖြစ်လို့ထူးခြားတာတော့ဒီဟာလေးဘုံဘုံကရှင်းပြတာရှင်းပြတဲ့နေရာမှာဗုဒ္ဓမြတ်စွာဘုရားကmuted တဲ့ unmuteမကြားရအောင်တင် can you hear if you can hear can raise your hand okay thank you ကထိန်ပြန်ပြောမယ်ကထိန်ချိန်ကသင်္ကန်းလှူတာတခြားချိန်လည်းသင်္ကန်းလှူတာပဲဘာခွာတော့ဒီလိုမေးစရာရှိတယ်တခြားအချိန်သင်္ကန်းလှူလို့မရဘူးလားမြတ်စွာဘုရားတားမြစ်ထားလားမတားမြစ်ပါဘူးလှူလို့ရတယ်ဒါဖြင့်ဒီချိန်လှူတဲ့သင်္ကန်းကိုကထိန်လို့ခေါ်ပြီးတော့ဘာလို့လို့ဘာဖြစ်လို့သူ့ကိုထူးတယ် special ဖြစ်တယ်လို့ယူဆမှာတော့နားလည်ရမှာတော့ဒါပဲဒီနေ့ဘုံအဓိကပြောတာအခုပြောတဲ့သမိုင်းနဲ့နောက်ဗုဒ္ဓမြတ်စွာဘုရားရဲ့ရည်ရွယ်ချက်ကိုနားမလည်ဘူးဆိုရင်ကထိန်လှူတယ်ဆိုတာကကိုပိုက်ဆံရှိရင်သူများရောင်းတဲ့သင်္ကန်းတစုံသုံးမရှိရင်သုံးစုံအဲ့ဒါသွားဝယ်ပြီးတော့လာကတ်လိုက်တယ်ပြီးရင်ဘုန်းကြီးရှေ့နေပြီးတော့တိုင်တယ်ဖေးတဲ့အတိုင်းပါဠိလိုလိုက်ဆိုတယ်အဓိကကတော့တပိတော့ကထိန်သင်္ကန်းလှူပါတယ်ရှင်ပြတို့ဒီသင်္ကန်းနဲ့ကထိန်ခင်းပါအဲ့လိုဆိုတာပေါ့အဲ့လိုဆိုလိုက်ပြီးတော့ရေစက်ချလိုက်ဒါကထိန်တကအများစုကတော့ကထိန်အောင်မြင်ပြီလို့ယူဆတယ်ဒီနေ့ဘုံဘုံဆိုချင်တာကမြတ်စွာဘုရားကကထိန်ကိုဒီလိုပေါ်ဆဆခွင့်ပြုထားတာမဟုတ်ပါဘူးကထိန်သင်္ကန်းပေါ့နော်ဒီအချိန်မှာဒီသင်္ကန်းမရှိဘူးဆိုရင်ကိုယ့်အကိုချုပ်ဆိုးပြီးတော့ကထိန်ခင်းဖို့တကားတည်းလာလှူထားတယ်ဆိုရင်လာလှူထားတဲ့သင်္ကန်းနဲ့ကထိန်ခင်းဖို့အတွက်ရဟန်းတော်တွေကအနည်းဆုံး3 လကျင့်ကြံစရာတွေကျင့်ကြံပြီးသားဖြစ်ရမယ်အဲ့ဒီအရာတွေကိုမကျင့်ကြံခဲ့ဘူးဆိုရင်တခါတည်းကသင်္ကန်းလာလှူရုံနဲ့ကထိန်သင်္ကန်းအထမမြောက်ပါဘူးအဲ့ကျင့်ရမယ့်ဟာတွေကတော့သံဃာတွေကပုံမှန်ဆိုရင်သံဃာတွေကဒီစောပိုင်းတော့ဆိုရင်ခီးတွားတာများတယ်ဒီနေရာထဲမှာတကြောင်ထဲမှာနေတာသိမရှိဘူးဘာဖြစ်လို့တော့ဆိုတော့မြို့ကြီးတွေလည်းမရှိဘူးရွာကြီးတွေလည်းသိမရှိတဲ့ခါကျတော့ဒီနေရာထဲမှာသံဃာအများကြီးတရင်သုံးရင်ဆုံးကွန်ခက်ခဲပါတယ်အဲ့ဒါကြောင့်မလို့နှစ်ပါးသုံးပါးဒီနေရာအဲ့လိုသွားနေကြတယ်ဆုံးကိစ္စအစဉ်ပြေတဲ့နေရာဆုံးခံလို့အစဉ်ပြေတဲ့နေရာအဲ့နေရာနားမှာတိတ်ဆိတ်တဲ့နေရာတော်တယ်ပဲဖြစ်ဖြစ်ဒေါသလေးပဲဖြစ်ဖြစ်အဲ့လိုနေရာလေးမှာသတင်းသုံးပြီးတော့ရွာထဲမှာဆုံးခံစားကိုတရားကိုကျင့်အခွင့်အလမ်းကြုံတဲ့အခါမှာတခါတွေကို တရားပြတရားဟောအဲ့လိုသာနာပြုကြတာကိုတွင်ကိုပါသာနာပြုကြဒါရှေ့ခက်ကအဲ့လိုဖြစ်တဲ့ခါကျတော့တယောက်ထဲနေတာအေးဆေးဆေးနေတတ်တဲ့ယဟန်တော်တွေများတာပေါ့မအေးဆေးဆေးကိုယ့်အကိုတယောက်ထဲအေးဆေးနေတတ်တိုင်းအများနဲ့နေတတ်တဲ့ social skill ရှိချင်မှရှိတာအဲ့ဒါကြောင့်အဲ့ဒီ social skill ရှိအောင်အများနဲ့နေတတ်အောင်ဘုရားမြတ်စွာဘုရားကဝါတွင်3လမှာအများနဲ့အတူနေပါအများနဲ့အတူနေပါအများနဲ့အတူနေတယ်ဆိုတော့ဝါသနာမတူတာစေရိုက်မတူတာအမြင်ချင်းမတူတာအဲ့ဒါမျိုးတွေရှိတယ် upbringing ဆိုတဲ့ငယ်တော့ကိုကြီးပြင်းလာခဲ့တဲ့ပတ်ဝန်းကျင်မတူတာအဲ့လိုမတူတာတွေများတဲ့ခါကျတော့အလွယ်တကူစကားများနိုင်တယ်အလွယ်တကူတပားရဲ့အပြုအမူကိုနောက်တပားကစိတ်ပြက်တတ်တယ်ဒေါသဖြစ်တတ်တယ်အဲ့ဒီလိုဖြစ်တယ်ဆိုရင်တိမခံနိုင်ဘူးဆိုပြီးတော့ထသွားလိုက်ရင်အဲ့ယဟန်ကထိန်လက်ခံလို့မရဘူးဆိုလိုတာကဒီကထိန်သင်္ကန်းကိုလက်ခံတဲ့ယဟန်ကသူကအများနဲ့နေတတ်တဲ့ social skill ရှိရမယ်အနည်းဆုံးအများနဲ့3လသဟဇာတာဖြစ်ဖြစ်သဟဇာတာရှိညညအတူနေထိုင်တတ်တဲ့ယဟန်ဖြစ်ရမယ်လို့မြတ်စွာဘုရားဟောတာအဲ့ဒီလိုနေတတ်အောင်ဘာတရားတွေကိုအဓိကထားပြီးတော့ကျင့်ကြံမှာတော့ကိုယ်တိုင်ကျင့်နေကြတခြားတရားတွေထဲမှာကျင့်စဉ်တစ်ခုကိုဗုဒ္ဓမြတ်စွာဘုရားကအသားပေးပြီးတော့ဟောတယ်တစ်ခုကတော့သီးခံမှုပဲခန္တီပါရမီခန္တီပါရမီအမြင်မတူတာသီးခံတယ်မပြည့်စုံတာသီးခံတယ်ဒီလိုအမျိုးပေါ့သီးခံတယ်ဆိုတာကဘုန်းတို့ကျေးဇူးတော်ရှင်ဘာမောက္ခချုပ်ဆရာတော်ကြီးတော်ရန်ဓမ္မလာဘိဝန္ဒဟောထားတဲ့အတိုင်းပေါ့သီးခံခြင်းတရားနဲ့ကိုကျင့်တရားဆိုတဲ့တရားထဲမှာဟောထားတာပါဠိတော်ထဲကနေပြီးတော့ယူထားခန္တီ thorism ဆိုတဲ့အချက်နှစ်ချက်ခန္တီကသီးခံတာသီးခံတဲ့ခါကျမှ thorism ဆိုတာကအများအလိုကျအောင်နေနိုင်တဲ့နေတတ်တဲ့အပြုအမူသီလရောစိတ်နေစိတ်ထားအပြောဆိုရော तू ကလိုက်လာတာဒါကြောင့်ခန္တီဆိုတာကအထူးသဖြင့်ဒေါသကိုကင်တွယ်တာပါပဲစိတ်တူတတ်တာစိတ်ညစ်တတ်တာသူများအပေါ်မှာအမြင်ဆောင်တတ်တာ negative အတွေးတွေပဲတွေးနေတာအချွင်းချက်တွေကိုပဲတစ်ချိန်လုံးမြင်နေတာအဲ့ဒီဟာတွေကိုပြန်ပြီးတော့ပြုပြင်ရတာအဲ့လိုမပြုပြင်ဘူးလူတိုင်းရဲ့အပြစ်ကိုပဲမြင်တတ်တယ်negative ဖြစ်တာကိုပဲကြည့်တတ်တယ်ဆိုရင်အဲ့ဒီပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ကအများနဲ့နေရတာအဆင်မပြေဘူးဒါကြောင့်ခန္တီပါရမီရှိရတယ်တဲ့ခန္တီဘလောက်ရေးကြီးတုံးဆိုဗုဒ္ဓမြတ်စွာဘုရားကသာသနာတော်ရဲ့ပရမပိုင်း20မှာဝိနည်းစည်းကမ်းမထားဘဲနဲ့ခန္တီတရားတစ်လုံးနဲ့အုပ်ချုပ်သွားတယ်ဒေါသထိတ်နိုင်ပြီးတော့အချင်းချင်းသီးခံနိုင်တယ်သီးခံတတ်တယ်သီးခံတတ်တယ်ဆိုရင်ပေါ့ဝိနည်းစည်းကမ်းနဲ့အားလုံးဒီခန္တီတရားတစ်လုံးကအစားထိုးတာအခုခေတ်တော့ anger management တို့ဘာလို့အဲ့လိုပြောတာပေါ့ အဲကြောင့်ခန္တီဆိုတာကဒေါသကိုနဲအောင်ကျင့်တဲ့အရာဖြစ်လို့မို့လို့သူ့ကိုမေတ္တာလို့လည်းခေါ်ပါတယ်ကရုဏာလို့လည်းခေါ်ပါတယ်မဂ္ဂင်ရှိပါထဲမှာတော့အပြဘာဒသင်္ကပ္ပနဲ့အဝိဟိန္ဒသင်္ကပ္ပအပြဘာဒသင်္ကပ္ပကမေတ္တာအဝိဟိန္ဒသင်္ကပ္ပကရုဏာဖြစ်ပါတယ်ဒါကြောင့်ခန္တီတရားဟာသမ္မာသင်္ကပ္ပထဲမှာပါတယ်ဒီနည်းအားဖြင့်ပြောမယ်ဆိုရင်ခန္တီတရားကပညာသိက္ခာထဲမှာပါပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီခုထက်နဲ့လားဆိုမဟုတ်သေးဘူးတဲ့ခန္တီတရားကမပြည့်စုံတဲ့အရာကိုယ်စိတ်တိုင်းမကြတဲ့အရာကို manage လုပ်ဖို့ကင်တွယ်ဖို့အတွက်ပြဿနာဖြေရှင်းဖို့အတွက်ရှိရမယ့်တရားလို့ပြောရင်ပြဿနာမရှိတဲ့အချိန်မှာကောင်းတာတွေကိုကြည်ပြီးတော့တယောက်ကိုတယောက်တစ်ပါးကိုတစ်ပါးဝမ်းမြောက်ဝမ်းသာဖြစ်တာဂုဏ်ယူတာချီးမွမ်းတာမုဒိတာဖြစ်တာပီတိဖြစ်တာအဲ့ဟာလေပွားများမယ်တဲ့ဒါကြောင့်ကထိန်ခင်းတဲ့အခါမှာအထတံပန္တေသံဃတဂတိနန္ထမိကောဂတိနထာရောအနုမောဒာမိအနုမောဒနာပြုရတယ်မုဒိတာလုပ်ရတယ်မုဒိတာလုပ်ရတယ်ဝိနည်းထဲမှာလည်းပဲဓမ္မကောသံဃောတမောဒမောနောအာဝရမနောဧဂုတ်တေသောဖာသူဝိဟရတိတိဓမ္မကောညညွတ်တဲ့အတိုင်းဝညညွတ်တဲ့ community တိဆောက်တယ်ဆိုတော့ဘယ်လိုတိဆောက်တော့တမောဒမာနောမုဒိတာနဲ့တိဆောက်တယ်တပါးရဲ့တပါးကောင်းခွက်တွေကြိုးစားမှုတွေအတိမပြုရင်အတိမပြုတဲ့အခါမှာကိုအတိလိုပေါ့နော်အတိမပြုထားတယ်ဆိုရင်အစမပြေမှုရှိတဲ့အခါမှာဟိုကဒေါသမပါပဲနဲ့ထိုင်ပြီးလေးလေးစားစားတပါးနဲ့တပါးဆွေးနွေးနိုင်တယ်အဲ့ဒါကိုအာဝိဝရမနောစကားမများတဲ့ဆွေးနွေးနည်းအဲ့လိုခေါ်တယ်ဘာဖြစ်လို့တော့ဆိုတော့ဧကုတ်တေတော့ဝိဒီစီကံတစ်ခုတည်းကိုပဲယုံကြည်ထားပြီးတော့တူညီတဲ့စီကံတူညီတဲ့နားလည်တရားတို့ကင်ထားတဲ့အတွက်ကြောင့်ဧကုတ်တေတော့အဲ့ဒါမျိုးဆိုရင်ဖာသူဝိဟရတိညညွတ်တဲ့အတိုင်းဝိုင်းဖြစ်ပါတယ်အဲ့ဒီလိုနေနိုင်တဲ့ခါကျမှအနည်းဆုံး3လနေနိုင်တဲ့ခါကျမှဝါဆိုတဲ့ခါကျမှဒီကတင်သင်္ကန်းကိုလက်ခံခွင့်ရှိပါတယ်အတူတူသတင်းသုံးနေဆိုတဲ့နေရာမှာပြဿနာမရှိဘဲနဲ့သတင်းသုံးနိုင်မယ်လို့မြတ်စွာဘုရားကဒီလိုမယူဆထားဘူးအတူတူနေတဲ့အခါမှာဒီလိုပဲအစမပြေမှုတွေရှိလိမ့်မယ်အဲ့လိုရှိတယ်ဆိုရင်လည်းပဲအချင်းချင်းခွင့်လွတ်တာတွေအချင်းချင်းနားလည်မှုတွေရှိအောင် constructive criticism ဆိုတာကမေတ္တာအခြေခံတဲ့ဝေဖန်မှုတွေဂရုဏာအခြေခံတဲ့ဝေဖန်မှုတွေလုပ်ကြရတယ်တဲ့အဲ့ဒါကိုဘဝရဏလို့ခေါ်တယ်ဘဝရဏအနုကမ္မဥပ္ပန္နယဘဝရဏလုပ်တယ်အများကကိုယ်လာပြီးတော့ဝေဖန်တယ်တပါးပါကိုယ်လာပြီးတော့ဝေဖန်တယ်အိမ်မှာဆိုရင်လည်းပဲမိသားစုတွေချင်းချင်းဝေဖန်တယ်ဆိုတာကတကယ်လို့ကိုယ့်ကိုယုံကြည်ချက် self confidence အပြည့်စုံမရှိဘူးဆိုရင်သူများဝေဖန်တဲ့အခါမှာကိုယ်စိတ်ထဲမှာမလုံမခြုံဖြစ်ပြီးတော့ပောက်ကွဲတယ်ဒေါသဖြစ်တယ်ငါဒီလိုပြောမလားဒါကြောင့်ကိုယုံကြည်မှုရှိအောင်ဘုရားမြတ်စွာဘုရားမုဒိတာလုပ်ပါကိုယ့်အကိုမုဒိတာလုပ်ပါဒီနေ့တာကိုကြိုးစားအားထုတ်တဲ့အလုပ်တွေအဲ့ဒါတွေကိုပြန်ကြည့်ပြီးတော့မုဒိတာဖြစ်ပါမုဒိတာဖြစ်ပါတစ်ဖက်ကလည်းပဲခန္တီတရားပွားများပါအဲ့လိုဆိုရင်တော့သူများလာပြီးတော့ဆွေးနွေးတာကိုချွင်းချက်နဲ့ပတ်သက်လာပြီးတော့ဆွေးနွေးတဲ့ဟာတွေကိုစိတ်ထဲမှာoffensive မဖြစ်တော့ဘူးစိတ်မဆိုးတော့ဘူးဆိုရင်အတူတူနေလို့ရတယ်တဲ့ community တခုအနေနဲ့နေလို့ရတယ်အတိုင်းဝိုင်းတစ်ခုအနေနဲ့နေလို့ရတယ်ရမဖြစ်တော့ဘူးအဲ့ဒါကြောင့်3လဝါဆိုတာရေပောရဏပြုတာအဲ့နှစ်ခုရှိမှကထိန်သင်္ကန်းလက်ခံလို့ရတယ်လို့ဘုရားမြတ်စွာဘုရားပြညတ်ထားတာဒါအတူတူနေတတ်အောင် social skill ရှိအောင်ယဟန်တွေကိုသင်ပေးတာဒီ social skill ရှိတဲ့ ဆက်ဆံရေးမှာလူမှုကျွမ်းကျင်ရေးလူမှုဆက်ဆံရေးမှာကျွမ်းကျင်ခြင်းစိတ်ထားစိတ်ထားမှလည်းပဲခန္တီတရားနဲ့မုဒိတာတရားရှိခြင်းဆိုတဲ့ဒီအည်သွေးတွေနဲ့ရှိတဲ့အခါကျမှကထိန်သင်္ကန်းကအထမြောက်တာကိုဒါကြောင့်ကထိန်သင်္ကန်းကအကျိုးကြီးကျေးဇူးကြီးတယ်ဆိုတာဒီကထိန်သင်္ကန်းလှူတဲ့အထက်မှာဒါနတွေမကဘူးနော်ပညာပါရမီခန္တီပါရမီမေတ္တာပါရမီအဲ့ဒါတွေပါတခါတည်းပါသွားတဲ့ကြောင့်မလို့အကျိုးမကြီးပဲနဲ့သူကမနေနိုင်ဘူးအကျိုးကြီးတာပေါ့အကျိုးကြီးတယ်ဟာဗတ်တက္ကသိုလ်ကနေပြီးတော့သူတွေနာလှုပ်ထားတဲ့အထက်မှာနှစ်ပေါင်း80လောက်ရှိပြီလူတွေကိုတောက်လျှောက်သူတွေနာပြုလာတာလူတွေကိုပျော်ရွှင်အောင်ဘာကလှုပ်ပေးတော့ဆိုတော့အများနဲ့အတူနေတတ်တဲ့ social skill တဲ့အဲ့ဒီဟာကလူတွေကိုအပျော်ပျော်ရွှင်တဲ့ပုံကိုဖြစ်အောင်လှုပ်ပေးတာတဲ့ကလေးတွေကတော့အဲ့လိုမထင်ဘူးကလေးတွေကပိုက်ဆံရှိမှပြောမယ်မဟုတ်နာမည်ကြီးမှပြောမယ်ဒီလိုထင်တာပေါ့နာမည်ကြီးတိုင်းလည်းမပျော်ရွှင်ပါဘူးတဲ့ဘုံဘုံတို့အရွယ်အနေနဲ့ဆိုရင်တော့မိုက်ကယ်ဂျက်ဆန်ကိုကြည့်နိုင်တာပေါ့အရန်နာမည်ကြီးတယ်ဒါပေမဲ့ပျော်ရွှင်တဲ့ပုံကိုယ်ထဲမှာ तू မပါဘူးရုပ်ရှင်မင်းသားမင်းသမီးတွေဟောလိဝုဒ်ကတကယ်နာမည်ကြီးပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေကဘာကျော်မင်းသားမင်းသမီးတွေသူတို့ကအပျော်ဆုံးထဲမှာမပါပါဘူးပတ်စံချမ်းသာတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်တွေလည်းရှိပါတယ်ပတ်စံချမ်းသာတိုင်းပျော်ရွှင်မှုအလိုလျောက်ရောက်မလာပါဘူးအခုပြောတဲ့တရားတွေနော်အင်္ဂလိပ်လိုပြောရင်တော့ social skill တွေရှိတဲ့ခံချက်မှာပျော်ရွှင်တဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်ဖြစ်နိုင်တယ်တဲ့နော်ဒီအားလေးနဲ့ဘုံဘုံအဆုံးသတ်ပါတယ်ဒါကြောင့်ကထိန်သင်္ကန်းကိုမဖြစ်အောင် online နေပြီးတော့စူးစမ်းပြီးလှူဒန်းကြတဲ့ကထိန်လှူဒါယကမများအားလုံးကျမ်းမာချမ်းသာစွာဖြင့်ဗုဒ္ဓမြတ်စွာဘုရားဟောထားတဲ့အတိုင်းခန္တီပါရမီပညာပါရမီမုဒိတာမေတ္တာပါရမီဌာနပါရမီအစရှိသဖြင့်ပါရမီတရားတွေတဆင့်ပြီးတဆင့်တိုးတက်ပြီးတကလားပျော်ရွှင်တဲ့ဒီဘဝမှာတင်ပျော်ရွှင်ပြီးမိမိကောင်းကျိုးအမြတ်ကောင်းကျိုးလူသားကောင်းကျိုးသာနာတော်ကောင်းကျိုးထိုးရတဲ့ဘုဆောင်ရနိုင်ကြတဲ့ပုဂ္ဂိုလ်သူပုဂ္ဂိုလ်မြတ်များဖြစ်ကြပါစေYes, Chairman. No, we share merit. Please unmute yourself. Okay, everyone, unmute yourself. We say Kusu Midnight. Unmute the mode. Mary, can you unmute everyone? Okay, then we do Kusu Midnight. Failure, we share merit, okay, Kusu midnight. You have to say it loudly. You are the sponsor, you have to say it loudly. Okay. Kusu midnight, midnight, how kashatak lai sang parami ma. ลายแสนกำปาทั้งเสียงทั้งลงไม้เจมพีเจมสางเจมสัดเจมคนเวนเฮียสัตวาสัจวัลละอนันทสัจวัลละทั้งเสียงHom Som Sadhu Anumodana I have Kuso Ponli Peng Kan Seng Sakam Doi Danom Sadhu ฐานะยาสีลามยาภาวนาเท่าเสากาทั้งเสงทั้งโลงอย่าโดคงทงหายพิมอำละไห้คุณหิมอำละเฮสัตวายิมอำละเฮย้อนภาคพังไว้ในมาโคใจเฮากาต่อเต้าหอดที่อเสสาอามาตาเนปานอาทิกัดเย็นเสกันทิกาโนทิกาโนสาธุสาธุสาธุยันเนยคูพิวพิวตมยกุตลาอีမြတ်ပါကကိုယခုဘဝရှေရှေဘဝတော်စัจကြသောအမိအဖအဖိုးအဖွာဆေးအားသမားဆွေမျိုးညာတကားအစထား၍30ဘုံချင်းလဲကြကုန်သောဝိနိယဒုခိတဒုခိတတတဝါအပေါင်းတို့အားအမြအမြဘေးဝေငှပါ၏အမြရ၍ကိုယ်စိတ်နှဖျားချမ်းချမ်းမာမာချမ်းချမ်းသာသာရှိကြပါစေသောကုသိုလ်သာဓုသာ